Hello, friends. Hope you are doing great. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about one of Shakespeare's plays, The Merchant of Venice. So let's get started. William Shakespeare was born in Stratford, England, in the year 1564. He had 8 brothers and sisters. He belonged to a middle-class family. His father was a Stratford businessman. He owned a leather shop and was a glove maker. Shakespeare was considered to be the greatest English playwright, dramatist, and poet of all time. He contributed as many as 3,000 words to the English language. Today we are going to discuss one of his plays, namely The Merchant of Venice. Before going to the main theme, let me first introduce you to the main characters of the play. Number 1, Shylock, a Jewish moneylender in Venice, gravely annoyed by his mistreatment at the hands of Venice's Christians, particularly Antonio. Shylock planned to eke out his revenge inhumanly by demanding as a payment a pound of Antonio's flesh. These contradictions, inhuman behavior, hatred have earned Shylock as one of the Shakespeare's most memorable characters. Portia, a wealthy heiress from Belmont, quite young and an intelligent personality, however, bound by a clause in her father's will that obliged her to marry one of whoever chooses correctly among 3 caskets. Nonetheless, she able to marry her true love, Bassanio. 4 and away, the most clever among others of the play's characters. It is Portia, under the guise of a young law clerk, who saves Antonio from Shylock's knife. Antonio, the merchant whose inclination towards his friend Bassanio obliged him to sign Shylock's contract and almost lose his life. Antonio is something of a depressed personality and, as per Shylock figures out, possessed with hatred against Jews. Nevertheless, Antonio's love with his friend Shylock proves him merciful, though with conditions. Jessica, Shylock's daughter, hates life in her father's house and run away with a Christian man, Lorenzo. Often in doubts, the play's characters wonder if her marriage could be a successful one since she was a Jew. And one wonders if sale of a ring given to her father by her mother is proved to be of no value. Bassanio, a gentleman from Venice and a dear friend of Antonio, his love for the wealthy Portia obliged him to borrow money from Shylock, with Antonio as a guarantor. Bassanio, however, proves himself a worthy suitor, correctly identifying the casket contains Portia's portrait. Gaetano, a friend of Bassanio's, who accompanies him to Belmont, a rough and impolite young man. Gaetano is Shylock's most insulting critic during the trial period, while Bassanio courts Portia. Lorenzo, a common friend of Bassanio and Antonio, who is in love with Shylock's daughter, Jessica. He plans to help Jessica to escape from her father's house and finally run away with her to Belmont. Nerissa, Portia's lady-in-waiting, she marries Gaetano and escorts Portia on Portia's trip to Venice under the guise as her law clerk. Lancelot Gobbo, Bassanio's servant, a clownish figure, was particularly adept at making puns. Lancelot leaves Shylock's service and decides to work for Bassanio. The Prince of Morocco, a Moorish prince who seeks Portia's hand in marriage. The prince asks Portia to ignore his dark complexion and seeks to win her by picking one of the three caskets, quite certain that the caskets reflect Portia's beauty and stature. The prince then picks the gold chest, which proves to be incorrect. The Prince of Aragon, another arrogant Spanish nobleman who also attempts to win Portia's hand by picking a casket. Like the Prince of Morocco, chooses unwisely and picks the silver casket, which serves him as an idiot instead of Portia's hand. Salarino, a Venetian gentleman and friend of Antonio, Bassanio, and Lorenzo. Salarino escorts Jessica and Lorenzo to Belmont and returns with Bassanio and Gaetano for Antonio's trial. He is almost indistinguishable from his companion, Solano. Solanio, a Venetian gentleman and frequent counterpart to Salarino. The Duke of Venice, the ruler of Venice who presides Antonio's trial, a powerful man, yet his estate builds on respect for the law. Nevertheless, he is unable to help Antonio. Old Gobbo, Lancelot's father, also worked as a servant in Venice. Tubal, a Jew and one of Shylock's friends in Venice. Dr. Bellario, Portia's cousin, although he never appears in the play, yet he gives letter of introduction to Portia's servant, requires her to make her appearance in the court. Balthasar, Portia's servant, whom she dispatches in order to receive necessary materials from Dr. Bellario. Now, let's move to the main theme of the play. Apparently, the main difference between the Christian and Shylock appears to be that the Christian characters value human relationship, but not business ones, whereas Shylock's interest is only in money. The Christian characters certainly view the entire scenario in this way. On the other hand, merchants like Antonio lend money free of interest and put themselves at risk for those they love, whereas Shylock worries intensely and runs through the streets crying, "Oh my ducats, oh my daughter." Uttering these words, he apparently values his money as much as his daughter, believes that his greed considers much importance than that of his love. However, upon a closer look, this supposed difference between Christian and Jew breaks down. When we see Shylock in Act 3, in Scene 1, he seems more dejected by the fact that his daughter sold a ring that was given to him by his dead wife before they were merit. Some human relationships do matter to Shylock more than money. His insistence that he have a pound of flesh rather than any amount of money shows that his resentment is much stronger than his greed. So that's the end of the play. Hope to join you soon. Bye.